So you're an ambitious artist. You have great goals and dreams, but boom, life strikes you down. Maybe it's your job, maybe it's your family, maybe it's your kids. So it's okay to put art on the back burner, right? Right? Welcome to Art Mentor. My name is Sean, and today I want to teach you about how to keep art alive even when your whole life goes to complete crap, nothing goes right the way you planned, but you want to balance art and your life. So this is how you do it. Now, with what you're currently going through, want to just liken this to a grenade. And that's pretty much how you feel, isn't it, right now? Because when you're going through something really tough or you're just unsure, there's some strange things happening in your life or it's just totally suboptimal. It's just like when a grenade blows up. There's the initial impact, there's the initial force of it, but then what does the most damage? It's actually the shrapnel. That's actually the worst part of any type of grenade explosion is all of the things that come off of it and out of it. It's the deadliest part. And it's the same thing with your life. And what I want to liken this to is how it's creating collateral damage in your life. So right now, the way that you're currently feeling, the things that have happened to you, the troubles that you're currently experiencing, my friend, it's not what you want either. So what you want to make sure that you don't do is don't let your art be collateral damage from your life circumstances. Because here's the thing, it's going to be really hard to recover it. Right now, how is you abandoning something that actually is meaning for you for what you're currently going through, which is going to be temporary? And I know that that's probably not what you're currently thinking about. You're thinking about right now, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, or like, oh, I can't believe that this happened. I can't believe that they dumped me. I can't believe I lost my job. I can't believe this or that happened. I can't believe how stressful this is. But when you look at the entirety of your life, friend, if you start to really think about this, everything that happens to you, it's totally temporary. This is one thing that I used to make the mistake of a lot when I was going through rougher times, is that I would allow my art to just suffer and I would drop it all the way because I would think that my circumstances are more important than that. But then I kind of realized this. My art helped me get out of those circumstances. My art helped me move past it. My art helped me explore that. And that's a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today, is just reframing this, is that art is not an impediment to your current circumstances. It's actually the panacea for it. It's the cure for it. Have you ever thought of it like that? Now, let me tell you what a thermostat teaches you about how to be a better artist. I know it sounds weird, right? But hear me out. How does a thermostat work? Well, if you've got it set to heat, what'll happen is that it'll rise up to that current number that you set it at. If it's at cool, then what happens is that it'll lower down to that current number. So one of the things that you want to think about is that when you are experiencing turbulent times in your life, you need to kind of pick how much art time that you want to dedicate throughout a given period of time so that you're going to hit it. And y'all, here's one thing that you need to know. You're either going to rise or you're going to fall to exactly what that number is. Whatever that standard is, however many hours you'd like to set forth into art making, you are going to hit that number. So just like a thermostat, you'll either rise or you'll cool yourself down to meet it. What this also then entails is this, is that a lot of y'all are just not even using any type of metric to gauge how you're doing it, and you're gauging it totally inefficiently. Because one thing that I used to do is I used to feel bad about how much time that I would dedicate towards my art in a day. And you might have heard this advice too. If you've ever been told that you just have to make art every single day, I totally reject that. I really don't think that that's a very manageable way to go through your life, friend. Instead, look at it like this. How much time can you dedicate in a week? In a week, that's not that hard. Like, look at it just in a week. And whenever I invite people to go ahead and do this and track their time on it, what they'll find is that they're amazed at how much time they're able to do. Because most of you are gonna feel terrible about what you can't do in a day, but you'll be amazed at what you can do in a week. Look at it like this, friend. If you could only fit in 5 hours of art making in 1 week, that's 240 hours a year. That's crazy. Regardless of what you're going through and regardless of what you're thinking about and how your art is going to fit into your life, don't measure yourself using really lousy metrics. You want a metric that you can stick to that's going to make you feel good and you're going to see and feel big results. Because the more encouraged that you are, the more encouraged you are going to be to raise your art thermostat. You ever think of it like that? Now, if you're a good artist or you're somebody that's been doing this for a while and you've got some great hopes and dreams, The number one thing that you're probably going to be told is that you need to plan this out. Look, I've told you this too, but here's one thing that you might not have really thought about, and it's what Murphy's Law taught me. Inevitably, while you're going to be making your great goals and your great dreams, and you want to plan out all of this time that you want to be making artwork, you kind of have to expect things to go wrong at the same time. And that's what most artists don't account for, is this kind of flexibility time that you need just to understand that not everything is going to go your way. Not everything's going to go according to schedule, and that not everything is going to go the way that you intend it. You're never going to have an optimal version of it. So then therefore, one of the things that I would definitely recommend that you do is sort of develop, of course, some type of a plan, but kind of do it in maybe 3 different ways. First off, what's a suboptimal version of it? What's a balanced version of it? And then also, what's the optimal version of it? What do each one of those look like? I want you to have that in mind, so then that way you have kind of a barometer, you have a metric to know, how is this week going for you, okay? Here's the other thing, is that when you expect this now, this sets you up for one of 2 scenarios. And you have to be really, really careful about which one you're gonna fit into, because there's no gray area, friend. When you're afflicted with tough times, when you are currently going through something that is suboptimal to what you wish it was, you are going to fall into the camp of either being a victim of it or you're going to be a victor of it. And when you take a look at what research has said about what actually determines the outcome of your life and where you go from start to finish in it, my friend, you're going to find this, is that it's only 10% of what happens to you, and then 90% is going to be how you respond to it. So I want to ask you this, and what I want to set you up for and throughout this entire video is, how do you take control of those circumstances so that they don't take control of you? Because you are either going to sink or you're going to rise. And y'all, I don't want you to drown, because your art means something to you, doesn't it? Now, please let me share how you can shave years of wasting time off your life through all of your circumstances, whether they're big or small. And it's what being a sloth and a glutton taught me. Back when I was younger, I had some really turbulent times in my life. I had some definite things that were really a big struggle for me. And then what I used to do was I used to turn to my 2 vices, which would be food, and I would turn to media consumption. And then this is something that I still see a lot of people still struggle with. Tell me if this is you down below. And I get that from like a very human standpoint. Like when you go through a trauma, immediately, what do you want to do? You want to jump right to, I want to feel good. I want to feel okay. I want to feel better. I want to feel some type of pleasure, right? So what that then leads you into is you're going to want to switch your mode from being in the state of pain to being in the state of pleasure. So for me, it was a lot of like, I would play tons of video games. I would sink myself into it. And then I would like eat things that tasted good. And I would say this to myself, this is helping me. It's helping me calm myself down. It's helping me feel better. Have you ever said this too? Well, I want to let you know that that's the biggest lie. And it's the most popular lie that people tell themselves, because that's actually not helping you at all, friend. What you're really doing is not saying, I want to feel better. You're saying, I don't want to feel. And that tends to be the biggest problem I notice with a lot of people, even outside of art. And I experienced this too when I started to realize it, is that I just wanted to numb myself. And this tends to be a really big problem, and why you have a lot of issues coming back to art when you run away from it is because you have created this vicious cycle of you just don't want to do it because you don't want to think and you don't want to feel about your current circumstances. But I want to encourage you on this, friend, is that when you're actually engaged in your art making, that can be, and it should be, and it kind of needs to be, your time to sit there and explore yourself and explore your humanity, because at the forefront of why we make artwork, it is to explore the interiority of ourselves. In other words, our interior landscapes and how we think and how we feel, because the troubles that you feel in your life right now, have you ever noticed how that also comes out while you're art making? That's a good thing. So if you are currently experiencing some rough times, don't run to vices, don't run towards consumption activities, run towards instead creation activities, run towards mindful activities rather than mindless activities. Become aware of it so that you can shut it down faster. Think about this too. Can you take a walk? Can you exercise? Can you go somewhere with somebody? Like, engage in more human things and less consumption activities, because when you're in that state, you can't get out of it. And it becomes so easy to just get triggered and sink down into that state. But the way that you are going to interrupt your emotional state is you have to interrupt it through your physical state. This can also be done through writing along with your artwork. But when you're doing this, you're exiting the numbing cycle and you're entering the creation and understanding cycle. And that's what's actually going to help you feel long-term better. And you're going to learn positive coping mechanisms and positive coping strategies rather than harmful ones. I know that's a rough understanding for most people, but it is going to be life-changing for you. Now, can I share with you how I'm able to juggle everything that I do in my life? And just in case you don't know, I have a full-time job, I teach art, I have a mentorship, I run this YouTube channel, I also do private freelance work, and I'm also a doctoral student. Not sure if you even knew about that too, but I have to do a crap load of reading. I read 35 books last year. So on top of all that, I do have to fit time into my life in order to create art. And the number one thing that's helped me do this and keep this alive is through scheduling my time, but also that's not enough because I've seen this from dozens of artists who've said that I schedule my time and then nothing happens. I schedule my time and I sit down, blank. So what do you do about it? My suggestion to you, friend, that's helped me is you have to think about how do you maximize and optimize that time. When you are on a very fixed schedule, when you're on a very finite amount of time that you have in order to make art, again, we're gonna do that throughout a week and not a day, but you do have to juggle it in the course of 24 hours, of course. So when you have that finite amount of time, you have to think about how do you ensure that you're gonna know exactly what you're gonna do. So how do you do that? Make a plan, have a purpose, have some intent. I've made some other videos down below that you can find on how you can actually maximize your art time on this too, so that you have a more elaborated version of what that looks like. But also clean your space. When you're done making artwork for that day or that certain time frame, clean it up. Get everything set up so that the next day you don't have that resistance, you don't have that barrier to you entering into it. Think about what you want to do. One thing that helps me is that I put all of my work on a Dropbox and I look at it on my lunch break, I look at it when I'm bored, and I start to think about it and I'll formulate okay, I want to do this, this, and that today. I want to work here and here today. So when you enter it with a plan and you're prepped for it and you remove as much resistance and as many barriers as possible, you are going to be able to maximize the efficiency of what you want to do, so then you don't sit down, open up your laptop, and make the excuse of I don't even know what to do. Might as well go over here and do this other thing. See how that works? Now, for those of us that have families, that have roommates, that have kids, do you have kids, by the way, and you're trying to juggle artwork, right? That's a struggle in and of itself, right? So while you're doing that, how do you make sure that everybody understands what you need and how you feel about it? So what I see an error that most people do, and it's something that I used to do as well too, is that do you ever assume that everybody in your life knows how important this whole art thing is? Do you just assume that because somebody knows that you're an artist or knows that you have a tablet or knows that you have an art studio, that they just know exactly what you need? Do you just assume that because you've been with somebody for 10 years or more, that they just fully grasp the gravity of how important that is to you and your soul and your being and your purpose in life and what your goals and aspirations are? Because here's an error that I used to make that really prevented me from moving forward and leveling up faster, is that I would not communicate it with the people that were really close to me. I would not tell people that, hey, this is really important and here's what I need. One of the things that I especially see, and for those of you that are parents, you'll kind of relate to me on this right here, is that especially when you live really crazy lives, kids get in and out of bed, and you have smaller and smaller windows to work with for your art time, is that you really need to talk to the people in your life and let them know how important what you're doing is and when it's going to be. And I want to encourage you right now, start to talk to the people that are around you. If it's your parents, if it is your roommates, if it is your spouse, even if it's your kids, let them know how important it is that during X to Y time, you are going to be making artwork. Say to them, and it's okay to say hey, look, honey, I love you. Just want to let you know that between 8 and 9 tonight, I need to sit down and I need to make some artwork. Let your kids know, hey, look, mommy, daddy is going to be sitting down and I'm going to be doing art. I need you to just go ahead and go play and not bother me. I need you to go ahead and feel okay with giving some type of physical signal. Maybe you need to put a sign on your door. Maybe you need to lock the door too. You want to create some type of communication system that respectfully lets the people in your life know that what you're doing right then and there is important, needs to be happening without interruption. Unless there, of course, is an emergency, then you are going to have those people, A, also value the time that you have, but then B, also respect you. One thing that you can't ever assume is that people can just read your mind, and that because you have this value of artistry in your life, that you should expect everybody else in your life to adopt that same priority level, because they don't have it. So make sure that you're talking to them about it. You'd be so surprised at how many people will be way more supportive of you when you let them know that you need that support. Don't be afraid to. So can I tell you what Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood taught me about how to balance your life? So if you're not familiar with that, the magic system is called equivalent trade. And then all the characters in there would reconstitute those materials into weapons or objects or attacks and stuff. You need to have something in order to create something else. In other words, you need to have fuel for the fire, okay? Just stay with me here. So in your art life, you're gonna have things that come up, you're gonna have things happen, and you're gonna have your time stolen at certain times. You're gonna have certain things that will come up that will remove you from what you've currently scheduled it to be, which should be an art making again, right? Okay, so what you need to also think about now is how are you going to execute that law of equivalent trade? And what I'm talking about is how do you rebalance? So you meant to have 30 minutes to an hour of art making time that day. Okay, the next day, now you need to do 2 hours, okay? Or now you need to go ahead and sprinkle that throughout the rest of the week to hit it. Let's say that you had an entire week blown up. Let's say you had a death or something like that, okay? Be human, be with the people, be with the things that matter. But then I want you to think about this the next week. How do I rebalance those scales, okay? I think about it a little bit like this too. So recently for me, just like a few weeks ago, my cat died. And just to put this into context, I had him for 14 years. I had him since he was a kitten, and that hit me like a ton of bricks. It really did. And I canceled like everything that I was doing that day. It was a really hard and slightly traumatic day. He just went down really hard, got sick really fast, like over the course of 2 weeks, went from being here to not here. And that's really tough. And I know that I'm talking about an animal here, but I'm sure you can relate to this from a person too. I mean, just at any point in any day, you can say hello to somebody and then that night say goodbye to them, right? So on this note, just want to share with you this, I executed this too. So that day, got rid of everything, cleared my schedule. And then the next day I said, look, that happened. What am I going to do about it? And what is my purpose? And do I want to disrespect my friend, my little buddy's spirit by making an excuse not to do well for my life? Or can I use that to fuel what I want? Do I want to remember the good things? Or do I want to disrespect him and then also tell him that I made an excuse to not live my life happily without considering the spirit that he gave me and how he brought joy into my life and energized me? I want to keep that energy going. And then what that spurred me to do was then I rebalanced. I set it aside for the next day. And then like the clients that I had to meet with, people in my mentorship, I set that aside for the next week. Think about how you can rebalance your life and don't think about just how you can axe it and be okay with it. Because if you axe too many trees, you're not gonna have a forest anymore, are you? Now, while you're going through all your trials and tribulations, I wanna ask you this. What do you not have any of? Now, as you're wishing to be compelled to create more artwork and you're wishing that you had all of the energy that you need, you're gonna say this famous phrase, I don't have motivation. Sean, I don't have any motivation. How am I gonna sit down? I don't have any motivation. I just don't have any motivation to create art. My friend, motivation is not your trouble. Most people overvalue motivation and undervalue what's at the core of why that's even important. And here's what I want to clarify for you. Did you know that motivation actually doesn't even matter? Did you know that motivation isn't even that important? Because when you really boil it down, all motivation is spark. It's just the initial aha. Because listen, you've probably been motivated to do things and then not done them. Hey, I should go to the gym today. Nah, just kidding. Hey, I should eat healthy today. Nah, just kidding. Hey, I want to make art today. Got this new game? You've been lured away from doing certain things. So what does that tell you? motivation isn't enough. Motivation isn't the thing that you need. Motivation is not your concern. And if you're buying into this idea, then that is going to be your trouble. And you need to remove that word motivation, and I want you to replace it with this, my friend. What's a discipline? And how do we get there, though? In between motivation and discipline are habits. Just think about this. How is this habit that I'm doing right now going to contribute to what I want to do in my life? How is the habit that I'm experiencing right now going to make me into a better artist? Is this a habit that's going to facilitate my growth? Yes or no? Is this a habit that's going to contribute to me growing the person I want to be? Yes or no? When you start to ask yourself those questions, then you're going to be elevated to a much higher level of artistry, but also as a human being and growing into life that you want. And by the way, I made an entire video for you right here about how motivation doesn't matter. I get to more than 90% of most artists without any motivation at all. Go check it out.